Picture yourself at a festive Danish lunch, cold rye bread, a swirl of curry salad, and bite-sized pickled herring. Why do Danes adore this tangy treat so much? I'm about to reveal the centuries-old tradition, surprising health benefits, and a holiday twist. Welcome to the story of pickled herring in Denmark. But here's the thing. If you're not Danish, pickled fish on dark rye bread might sound, well, odd. Maybe even unappetizing. Many newcomers are confused. Why would anyone eat fish soaked in vinegar? And yet, in Denmark, this isn't just food, it's history, health, and holiday tradition all rolled into one. If you've ever felt out of place at a Danish table or wondered how to make sense of this unique dish, stay with me. Because in this video, you'll discover why Danes proudly serve pickled herring at their most important moments, and why you might end up loving it too. Sustainability and green energy. Viking heritage. Welfare system. New Nordic food. Welcome to Denmark Explained, your front row seat to the hidden gems, quirky traditions, and powerful stories that make Danish culture truly unforgettable. To understand why people in Denmark love pickled herring so much today, we need to travel back hundreds of years, to a time when this humble fish was the foundation of the nation's wealth and power. In the Middle Ages, herring was not just food. It was one of the most important resources in Northern Europe. Every year, vast schools of herring appeared in the waters along the Danish coast. This natural abundance created what was once the largest fish market in Europe. Traders from across the continent, merchants from Germany, the Netherlands, England, and beyond, would arrive to buy and sell barrels of salted and pickled herring. The scale of this market was enormous. In good fishing years, Denmark exported up to 300,000 barrels of herring. Imagine the sight. Row upon row of barrels stacked high, ready to be shipped across Europe. The trade was so profitable that it provided as much as 1/3 of the king's entire income. In other words, herring financed castles, wars, and political power. And believe it or not, this little fish even shaped international politics, something we'll circle back to later. It was also a product in constant demand. At that time, religion shaped eating habits across Europe. With more than 150 fasting days in the calendar when people were not allowed to eat meat, fish became the natural alternative. Herring was cheap, nutritious, and, thanks to preservation methods like salting and pickling, it could travel long distances without spoiling. For ordinary families, it was one of the few affordable sources of protein. And here's the twist. What once kept peasants alive is now served at elegant Christmas lunches, something we'll dive into in just a moment. But this trade wasn't just about money or religion. It also influenced culture. Generations of people grew up with herring as a normal part of their diet. By the late Middle Ages, preserved herring had spread far beyond Denmark's borders and had become a staple food in countries like Germany, Poland, and Russia. In many ways, Denmark's coastal economy introduced herring to half of Europe. The way it spread will remind you of how global food trends work today. We'll make that comparison later in the video. Of course, history is rarely static. Over time, fishing patterns changed. The once enormous schools of herring near the Danish coast declined in the 16th century, partly because of natural climate shifts and partly because of overfishing. As a result, the great markets shrank, and Denmark lost some of its economic dominance. Yet something interesting happened. Even though the large-scale trade faded, the tradition of preserving herring remained alive in Danish households. What started as a necessity, salting and pickling fish to survive long winters, turned into a national habit. Today, that tradition is remembered not only as food but as a piece of living history, connecting modern families with a golden age when herring shaped the destiny of a nation. And next, we'll explore how this old survival food became a daily delicacy on Denmark's most famous open-faced sandwich. Now that you know herring's epic economic origins, let's fast forward to how it became a staple on every Danish table. Now that we've seen how herring once powered an entire economy, let's step into the modern dining table, where this fish has become a centerpiece of daily meals. If you walk into a traditional lunch setting in Denmark today, one of the very first things you'll be served is pickled herring. It usually comes before any meat, before any cheese, and before the sweets. In fact, it often signals the official start of a meal. And it's never just one kind. Families and restaurants offer several varieties. The most common are light herring marinated in vinegar, red herring with beetroot, and curried herring served in a creamy yellow sauce. Sometimes you'll even find mustard, sherry, or onion versions waiting on the same table. What makes this tradition unique is the way it's paired. A slice of dense dark bread becomes the base, and on top of it goes the herring, decorated with sliced onions, capers, a spoon of curry salad, maybe even a boiled egg. Each bite is a careful layering of flavors, sharp, tangy, sweet, creamy, and earthy all at once. It's a taste that may seem unusual at first, but once you try it, you understand why people look forward to it again and again. And wait until we reach the holiday chapter, where these same dishes turn into a colorful feast. This is not just for special occasions either. Surveys show that people in Denmark eat several kilos of herring every year, making them some of the top consumers of preserved fish in Europe. For many, it's a regular part of weekly meals, not only during celebrations. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Restaurants in Copenhagen and other cities almost always feature at least 2 or 3 herring dishes on their menus. If you book a food tour, it's practically guaranteed that you'll be served herring on rye as one of the highlights. So, while tourists may first see it as a cultural curiosity, locals treat it as comfort food. It's part of identity, a way of saying, this is who we are, and this is how we eat. And that connection between food and culture runs deep. Think about it. How many countries can you name where one simple dish acts as both a link to medieval trade and as a favorite for Sunday lunch? What once started as a necessity, preserving fish for long winters, has evolved into a creative art form that still excites taste buds today. And the story doesn't stop there. Because beyond taste and tradition, herring has another secret advantage: it's packed with nutrients that make it a genuine health food. And that's exactly what we're exploring next. I've given you history and cultural context. Now, imagine yourself at a Danish table. Option A. You try a colorful, tangy herring-topped smørrebrød and instantly fall in love with the layered flavors. Option B. You hesitate, fish on rye seems odd to you. Which one are you leaning toward? Share your choice in the comments below, A or B. Planning a trip to Denmark? Or maybe you're moving there soon? Don't just Google your way through it. Let DenmarkExplained.com be your shortcut to a smoother, smarter, and way more fun experience. At DenmarkExplained.com/products, you'll find itineraries, ready-made plans that turn confusion into unforgettable days. eBooks, packed with local insights, cultural tips, and everyday know-how. No boring history lessons, just stuff that actually helps. Expat guides, moving to Denmark? Get the info you wish someone told you before you landed. Everything's digital, everything's simple, and everything's designed to make Denmark feel less confusing and way more cozy. So skip the stress and get the guides that explain Denmark clearly, cleverly, and in plain English. Check it out now at DenmarkExplained.com/products. Your trip, our tips. Let's make it amazing. Before we dive into the health benefits of this age-old delicacy, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Still with me? Great, that brings us to something surprising about herring. When most people see a jar of pickled fish, their first thought is usually taste. Is it salty? Is it sour? But here's the hidden truth. This dish is also a nutritional powerhouse. Behind every bite, there's a story about health, survival, and balance that goes far beyond flavor. One of the most surprising facts is just how much vitamin D is packed into a small serving. A 100-gram portion provides more than you'd need for an entire day. In a country with long, dark winters and very little sunlight, this was never just a bonus, it was essential for survival. Without it, people faced fatigue, weak bones, and even more serious health problems. So in many ways, eating pickled herring wasn't just a cultural choice, it was nature's way of keeping people strong. And it's not just vitamin D. Pickled herring is rich in selenium, a mineral that boosts the immune system and keeps cells healthy. That same small portion also gives a powerful dose of vitamin B12, which helps with energy and brain function. For centuries, people may not have known the science behind these nutrients, but they knew how they felt after eating it: full, energized, and able to face the cold. Isn't it fascinating how tradition often lines up with modern nutrition? Let's not forget about omega-3 fatty acids. These healthy fats are linked to stronger hearts, lower inflammation, and even better brain performance. Today, doctors recommend omega-3 supplements, but for generations, families in the north simply got theirs the natural way, through preserved fish on their plates. Imagine how forward-thinking that seems now. Another important part of the story is protein. At a time when meat was expensive and not always available, pickled herring provided a steady, affordable source of energy. Around 18 grams of protein in a serving meant workers, sailors, and farmers could keep going through long days. You might say it was the original superfood for ordinary people. And there's something else. Think about how this food was preserved. First, the fish was salted to draw out moisture, then soaked in vinegar with spices like pepper, cloves, or onions. This method kept the fish edible for months, long before refrigerators existed. In a way, every jar of pickled herring is a time capsule, showing how creativity and necessity combine to solve real-life problems. But here's where the story becomes even more modern. Studies show that regions where fish is eaten regularly tend to have lower rates of heart disease. At the same time, herring stocks are relatively well managed compared to other seafood, which means it's one of the more sustainable options today. Isn't it interesting that a dish once valued mainly for survival now fits perfectly into conversations about healthy eating and sustainability? So when you see pickled herring on the table, you're not just looking at food. You're looking at centuries of smart nutrition, cultural survival, and even a glimpse into the future of sustainable diets. Now that we've explored the history, daily habits, and flavors of pickled herring, you might wonder, how has this simple fish stayed so relevant in modern Denmark? In the next chapter, we'll dive into how pickled herring continues to connect generations, influence culture, and even make its mark globally. You won't believe some of the surprising ways it's still thriving today. Pickled herring isn't just about taste or nutrition, it's a living symbol of culture and tradition. Imagine a dish that has survived for centuries, not because it's trendy, but because it carries the story of a people, their celebrations, and their way of life. That's exactly what pickled herring represents. In modern households, it often appears during special occasions, holidays, family gatherings, and festive meals. Studies show that over 80% of people in the country eat pickled herring at least once a year, with spikes during traditional celebrations. You might be surprised to learn that even younger generations, many of whom grew up with fast food and international cuisine, recognize it as an emblem of heritage. Around 65% of adults aged 18 to 35 see this dish as part of their cultural identity. That's not just food, that's history on a plate. Tourists also can't resist it. Data shows that about 70% of visitors to the country try pickled herring when they experience the local cuisine. Often, it's served on open-faced sandwiches, in tasting platters, or alongside other traditional dishes. You'll notice that even in high-end restaurants, chefs are reinventing this classic. Mustard, herbs, and unique marinades are now common, keeping the tradition alive while giving it a modern twist. Exports tell another story. The country ships over 30,000 tons of pickled herring annually, proving that this isn't just a local favorite, it's a global product. And with sustainable fishing practices in place, people are not only enjoying a culturally significant food but doing so responsibly. The dish has become a bridge between the past and the present, showing how tradition can meet modern values. Social media reflects its ongoing popularity. Analysts found over 50,000 posts featuring pickled herring dishes every year. People share their holiday meals, festive platters, and even gourmet experiments. Each post is a small nod to a culinary heritage that continues to resonate across generations. It's fascinating. What started as a practical method to preserve food for harsh winters has transformed into a celebrated part of culture, shared and enjoyed worldwide. Finally, consider the symbolic meaning. Culinary historians trace this dish back over 400 years, linking it to communal dining, family traditions, and festive rituals. Each bite connects people to centuries of history, making it more than just a snack. It's a reminder of survival, creativity, and the joy of gathering around a table. So, the next time you see pickled herring, think beyond the flavor. You're looking at a dish that tells a story, represents heritage, and keeps traditions alive. It's proof that food can carry meaning far deeper than we usually imagine. Thanks for watching, and for diving into the delicious past and present of Danish pickled herring. See you in the next video. Don't forget to click on the playlist to your right for more stories about Denmark that will inspire your journey here.